few minutes, I probably had no idea what I was doing. In the main, the initial task with the session is to try to actually begin to get a patient to begin to consider themselves and their circumstances in their context, and particularly if something has happened. In this case, we discover something has happened. She's stayed with her mum, she's had the problems with her husband, and she's feeling bad about herself and so on. So she's got a whole array of responses and reactions. There's the reactions that were going on last night and so on. I tried to start because I knew she'd had a phone call to me and what that might represent for her, and so on, just to try to focus it a bit. I tried to take up the sense that she would only do that sort of thing if she's in great distress. So she's not doing that because there's nothing going on. She's doing that because there is something very powerful going on, and try to focus it into that. We then discover that she has had this problem with her husband. She forms these very rapid conclusions, which are all indicators of non-mentalizing. So she kept on coming back to, I'm going to get divorced, you know, he's having an affair and so on. And actually your job is to spend some time trying to get her to reconsider those big assumptions that she's making, because they all indicate non-mentalizing to the therapist. And at any of those points, your job is to try to get them to consider what might have been going on in much more depth. What we say to our therapists is just open it up, just expand the perspective, really. That if the patient says, I know he's having an affair, then actually how do you know? And I was trying to do a little bit of that, but you were giving me an awful lot of stuff to do it with. So you gradually in the session focus it more, trying to get them to increase their perspective and their understanding of what their experience may have been, how that may have coloured what they saw or not. I mean, what they see may be quite valid. For all we know, the husband is having an affair. So with a mentalizing therapist, you cannot assume that it's distorted or it's a perspective that is false. It may be correct, but you want to expand it so that you can begin to find out if the patient's own experience is actually also influencing things. And then you talked about the reaction, so your job is to move around. I tried also a little bit to get to some more use of affect. I didn't do it very well, but you did actually talk to me a little bit about how the experience was. The patient says she's very angry, which she ended on. I was going to ask you to describe that in much more detail, because often anger is actually hurt or something very different from how it's stated, and you want, again, to expand the affect. And I also try to begin to move to what we call an affect focus, so that we can begin to look at what's happening between us to some extent. But I didn't have a lot of opportunity to do that, so.
And as your client going through this experience, what I found was by asking me questions that I never would consider, it stopped me. It was like a roadblock to stop me from continuing on in that direction that I was going in, to make me pause and reflect and think. So I found that interesting, the feeling on my end that I had to stop back and think, oh, this might be another option. This might be something else I need to consider.
Okay, so I obviously got her mentalizing to some extent about the scenarios. I should say I was much more active in this than I might be in the session, simply because I've only got 10 minutes, so I'm trying to do things. But generally speaking, in MBT, you do keep pushing. But if a patient seems to want to just rest or not be pushed, then you can... I'm just beginning to enjoy myself. Okay. Then you would be less active at that particular point. Okay.